The Nikon D800 was born into the vast consumer DSLR world. Its top target, the Canon 5D Mark II. These two will finally have their chance to go head-to-head in the most exposing camera comparison the DSLR community at RIT has ever seen. It will be forever known as the DSLR DUEL. The Canon 5D Mark II has been the backbone of small-budget independent films since its release in 2008. It was the first DSLR to allow 1080p video recording and began a revolution of inexpensive, mobile, large sensor cameras that would inspire its use in professional shows such as NBC's Saturday Night Live and Fox's House. The Nikon D800 was released in early 2012 and poses direct competition to the Canon 5D series. The Nikon boasts a better signal-to-noise ratio, low light sensitivity, and active D-lighting. For the next 5 minutes, we will explore various aspects of these competitors and delve into the technical and visual differences between the two systems. We will begin with noise, move on to MTF, and follow with dynamic range and color. Let the duel begin. Round 1. Noise. Noise produced in the digital image is an effect of long shutter speeds, gain, and well size to achieve correct exposure in low light situations. It is defined as the random variation of brightness or color in an image caused by the imaging system itself or the variation in the number of photons sensed at a given exposure level. To evaluate the system, we implemented an aperture of a 5x5 pixel block. This represents a single grain that is visible to a human 6 picture heights away from the screen. We moved step by step through the image and found the end standard deviation. In order to test a wide range of situations, we tested at ISOs of 100, 200, 400, 800, and 1600. Here is a graph of the results. As you can see, the 5D rises above the D800 at extreme high ISOs, but at usual operating standards of 200 and 400, the D800 is significantly below in the red and green channel, and the 5D is slightly below in the blue channel. In a professional scene under normal lighting conditions, the D800 is the winner of this challenge, although it is good to note that for ISOs between 600 and 1200, the 5D is the better choice. In practical application, we recorded a green screen scene to test compositing difference from edge noise. The end composites were equal, but our compositor noted that the D800 was slightly easier to threshold and get a clean key. However, both cameras lost high-frequency edge detail. This is a tie in the compositing sequence. Round 2. MTF. The MTF of a camera defines the spatial resolution of the system. Imagine a fence heading away from you. The further away a fence is, the closer each post appears to get. The MTF defines how well the camera system recreates the fence as it gets more compact. There is a limit where the posts blend together. In scientific definition, the MTF is the modulation out over modulation in, where modulation is the black to white difference. Using the slanted edge on the chart shown here, the MTF can be graphed. Here is the plot of an ideal lensed system. Here is the 5D, and here is the D800. It is good to note that the MTF is highly dependent on the lens, so the difference in the camera MTF may be due simply to a difference in lens quality. Based on the previous results, the D800 is the clear winner of Round 2, the MTF Challenge. Round 3. Dynamic range. The dynamic range is an extremely important aspect of an imaging system. It tells you how many variations and stops your scene can have. For a digital system, it tells when you will clip and crush, where clipping and crushing refer to the limits of the system, where values become zeros or 255s and information cannot be recovered. We used the OECF chart shown here to measure the values. Here is a graph of our results. As you can see, the D800 slightly outcompetes the 5D in the highlights, and the 5D slightly outcompetes the D800 in the shadows. When we convert to stops, the rounding eliminates the differences, and they allow both 5 and 2/3 stops below and 3 and 1/3 stops above normal exposure. We tested a unique feature on the D800 named Active D lighting. The intent of this function is to attempt to preserve detail in both highlights and shadows in high contrast situations. This is the plot we created. There is no significant difference when using this feature under normal exposure. This scene was designed to test the extreme capabilities of the cameras. We will focus in on the paper in the center. There are in fact 3 individual sheets of paper, but as we try and bring information out through color correction, we can see the information is lost. To test exposure latitude, we underexpose this image. Although it's difficult to see, there is high detail in the back left side of the image. As we even out the images, you can see that even with the 2-stop underexposure, and the fact that this area was already 3 stops under normal, both the D800 and 5D are able to maintain detail when returned to normal exposure. The Canon and Nikon both performed well in the shadows, but clipped easily in the highlights. This round is a tie. Final round, color. In order to fully comprehend the color comparison, it will be explored both objectively and subjectively. Let's begin with a simple color comparison using a Macbeth chart. Both cameras have several built-in color modes, but for the sake of comparison, we use the common neutral setting. However, you can see that the cameras are not the same. If you look at the reds and greens, you'll notice that the 5D's colors are much more saturated and brighter. The 5D has a problem with blue colors though, and you can see how it makes darker blues appear purple. Contrast that with the D800's nice saturated blues. We also looked at how each camera captures a variety of skin tones. Using a spectrometer, we recorded the spectral reflectances of each actor's skin. We can compare these values to the skin colors captured by each camera using a L star versus C star graph. The further to the right on the graph, the more saturated the color is. The further to the top, the brighter the color. Comparing these images in their charts, we can see that both cameras' neutral setting tends to desaturate the flesh tones, the D800 more so than the 5D. The 5D, however, significantly darkens the skin tones as well. Now let's compare our cameras in a real scene. Here we can see the evidence of all the color capture differences above. With their neutral settings, the 5D tends to capture a darker, more contrasty image with more saturated reds and oranges. We can also see how it renders dark blues as purple in the girl's jersey. The D800 captures a flatter, brighter image while desaturating skin tones more than the 5D. Both cameras significantly alter colors, so neither Nikon nor Canon can be said to have a color-accurate DSLR. However, while the 5D attempts to capture a more pleasing image directly out of the camera, the D800's flatter image allows for more information for a colorist to work with in a post-production workflow, so the D800 wins this final round. The victor of the noise challenge is the D800, due to its low noise in normal lighting conditions. The victor of the MTF face-off is the D800 due to its more accurate recreation of high-frequency image detail. The dynamic range competition was a tie with both cameras allowing 5 2/3 stops below and 3 1/3 stops above normal exposure. The battle for accurate color was won by the D800 with its flatter profile and smaller variation within accurate skin tones. And now, introducing your new champion of the DSLR Duel, the Nikon D800.